The camera was shaking so violently that the crew member behind it was throwing up. Not from motion sickness, from pure terror, because what they were filming wasn't supposed to be real. Movies weren't supposed to feel like you were about to die. But Steve McQueen didn't care about supposed to. He had his hands wrapped around the steering wheel of a 1968 Ford Mustang, black leather gloves gripping tight, and he was about to do something that would either change cinema forever or kill him trying. It was October 1968, and the hills of San Francisco had never seen anything like this. McQueen wasn't just making another car chase. He was declaring war on everything Hollywood had taught audiences to expect. No fake speed, no camera tricks, no stunt doubles pretending to be him while he sat safely in a trailer. Just Steve McQueen, a Mustang, and the most dangerous streets in America. The director, Peter Yates, stood on the sidewalk watching his star disappear over a hill at speeds that made his insurance company weep. This wasn't how movies were made. This wasn't safe. This wasn't sane. But McQueen had made one thing crystal clear. Either they filmed it his way, or they didn't film it at all. To understand why Steve McQueen was willing to risk his life for a 10-minute car chase, you need to understand what Hollywood was doing wrong. In 1968, action sequences were lies. Beautiful, profitable lies. When you saw a car chase on screen, what you were really watching was footage shot at 15 miles per hour, then sped up in post-production. The technique was called undercranking, and it fooled audiences into thinking they were seeing real speed. The actors weren't even in the cars. They'd film close-ups of them sitting in stationary vehicles in front of rear projection screens, their hair blown by studio fans. It was cheaper, safer, and completely fake. Audiences didn't know they were being lied to, but something felt off. The action felt distant, artificial, like watching someone else's dream instead of living your own nightmare. Steve McQueen knew it was fake because he'd lived the real thing. He wasn't just an actor who happened to like cars. He was a racer who happened to act. He'd competed at Le Mans. He'd raced motorcycles across deserts. He knew what real speed felt like, and he knew that audiences deserved to feel it too. When McQueen first read the script for Bullitt, he saw an opportunity that terrified everyone around him. The story called for a car chase through San Francisco, not just any car chase, but one that would define the character, Lieutenant Frank Bullitt. McQueen made a decision that would change his life and cinema history. He would drive every foot of it himself, at real speeds, with real consequences. The studio executives laughed. Then they panicked. McQueen wasn't just their star, he was their entire investment. If he died filming a car chase, Warner Brothers would lose millions. They begged him to reconsider. They offered him more money. They threatened to replace him. McQueen's response was simple: find another actor. The first test run nearly ended the project before it began. McQueen took the Highland Green Mustang up one of San Francisco's steepest hills, Filbert Street, where the road drops at a 31-degree angle. In a normal car chase scene, they would have built a ramp to soften the landing. McQueen insisted on the real thing. He hit the crest of the hill at 85 miles per hour. For 3 seconds, the Mustang was completely airborne. When it landed, the impact was so violent that the suspension snapped. The car bounced, scraped, and kept rolling, throwing sparks that looked like fireworks in the morning sun. The sound was like a building collapsing. The crew stood in stunned silence. The camera had captured everything. Peter Yates looked at the footage and realized they'd just filmed something that had never been seen before. This wasn't a movie stunt. This was automotive violence, raw and beautiful and completely insane. But McQueen wasn't finished. He wanted more. He wanted the audience to feel like they were in the car, not watching it from outside. So he did something that violated every safety protocol in Hollywood. He put cameras inside the vehicles. Professional drivers told him it was suicide. The cameras added weight that would affect handling. The mounts could break loose and become projectiles in a crash. The electrical equipment could catch fire. McQueen didn't care. He wanted the audience to see his hands on the wheel, to feel the G-forces in the turns, to experience the terror of real speed. The setup was brutal. Cameras were bolted to the dashboard, the floor, the roll cage. McQueen wore a racing harness, but the camera equipment left no room for error. One wrong move, one mechanical failure, one moment of lost concentration, and the cameras that were supposed to capture his performance would become the instruments of his death. The villain's car, a black Dodge Charger, was driven by stunt driver Bill Hickman. Hickman was a legend, a man who taught James Dean to drive fast cars. But even Hickman was nervous. The speeds McQueen was demanding weren't just dangerous for Hollywood. They were dangerous for professional racers. The plan was to film the chase in segments, building speed gradually. But McQueen had other ideas. He wanted to capture the whole sequence in long, uncut takes. He wanted the audience to feel the relentless momentum, the building intensity. He wanted them to forget they were watching a movie. On the 5th day of filming, everything went wrong. McQueen was chasing the Charger down Russian Hill, speeds climbing past 90 miles per hour. The Charger hit a rise and went airborne, but when it landed, Hickman lost control. The car skidded sideways, spun twice, and slammed into one of the camera positions. The camera exploded in a shower of glass and metal. Film stock went flying like confetti. The lens, worth more than most people made in a year, shattered across the asphalt. For a moment, everyone thought Hickman was dead. The silence lasted forever. Then the Charger's door opened, and Hickman climbed out, shaken but alive. He looked at the wreckage, looked at McQueen still sitting in the Mustang, and said 5 words that became legend. "Let's get another camera ready." The insurance company tried to shut down production. They'd calculated the risks and decided that Steve McQueen was more valuable alive than any movie could be profitable. They threatened to pull coverage, which would have killed the film instantly. McQueen's response was to get back in the Mustang. He told the insurance executives they could either cover the remaining shots or explain to Warner Brothers why they'd killed a Steve McQueen movie over safety concerns. He wasn't bluffing. He was willing to risk everything for authenticity. The final sequence was filmed on a Tuesday morning when the San Francisco fog was so thick you could barely see a block ahead. McQueen and Hickman reached speeds of 110 miles per hour on city streets, weaving between parked cars and cable car tracks. The Mustang's engine screaming like a wounded animal. The cameras inside the cars caught everything. McQueen's face, calm and focused behind those black leather gloves. The speedometer climbing past numbers that made the crew look away. The violent shaking as the cars hit bumps and dips at speeds they were never designed for. When they called cut for the final time, the Mustang's engine was smoking. The transmission was destroyed. The tires were shredded down to the cords. But they had captured something that had never existed before. Real automotive danger, translated into cinema. The car chase in Bullitt runs for exactly 10 minutes and 43 seconds. In those 10 minutes, Steve McQueen didn't just create the greatest car chase in movie history. He changed the entire language of action cinema. Before Bullitt, car chases were background noise, filler between dialogue scenes. After Bullitt, they became the main event. Directors like William Friedkin, George Miller, and Christopher Nolan have all cited that chase as the moment they understood that action sequences could be more than spectacle. They could be character development, storytelling, pure cinematic poetry. McQueen's obsession with authenticity created a new standard that filmmakers are still chasing today. Every time you see a director brag about doing their own stunts, every time you see cameras mounted inside race cars, every time you feel your heart rate spike during an action sequence, you're experiencing the legacy of Steve McQueen's refusal to accept fake. But the real story isn't about speed or danger or even cinema history. It's about a man who understood that authenticity has a price, and he was willing to pay it. McQueen could have taken the safe route, the profitable route, the route that every other actor would have chosen. Instead, he chose to risk his life for something most people would never notice: the difference between real and fake. The crew member who got sick behind the camera later said that filming that chase changed his entire career. He learned that sometimes the most important work happens when you're too terrified to think about whether you're making a mistake. You just hold on and capture whatever truth is happening in front of you. Steve McQueen died in 1980, but those 10 minutes of film stock are still teaching audiences what real danger feels like every time someone watches that chase. They're experiencing the moment when an actor decided that his craft was worth risking everything for. That Highland green Mustang, battered and broken from the filming, sold at auction in 2020 for $3.4 million. But the real value wasn't in the metal or the history. It was in the lesson. Sometimes the only way to create something authentic is to put everything you have on the line. Ignore everyone who tells you it's impossible, and drive toward whatever truth is waiting on the other side of fear. Would you risk your life for your craft, or is some authenticity not worth dying for?